Roxana Ortega is an actress. She's a return performer here, and her credits include, I'm going to hold on to them so I don't drop them, HBO's Togetherness, NCIS, The New Girl, The League, and The Shield. She's also a voice performer, and her characters have been in film and video games, and currently her most recent is Nickelodeon's The Loud House. Please give a big round of applause for Roxana Ortega.
So, ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to go on safari. It's like my soul came into this world just wanting it. So, about 4.5 years ago, when my friend Jenny said she didn't have anybody to hike Mount Kilimanjaro with, I said, I'll go. We'll do your dream of hiking Mount Kilimanjaro, and then we'll do my dream of going on safari. Now, I knew nothing about Mount Kilimanjaro. She actually had to tell me it was in Africa. And I'm not a hiker per se, but I love a good view and I'm willing to walk for it. So I thought, sure, there's going to be a lot of walking, but the view is going to be amazing. So she gave me some information, a lot of information actually, but I didn't want to read too much because I really wanted to be surprised. So I just perused, and in my perusing, I came across a little fact about Mount Kilimanjaro that I had not known before. It could kill you. People died every year. We were going to be walking in extreme altitude up to 19,300 feet. And that could cause something called cerebral edema, which had two symptoms that really got stuck in my head. Brain leak. Brain leak. Now, I didn't know what my brain would be leaking, but I knew I did not want that. See, I'm adventurous, but I'm also extremely fearful. A therapist once told me I run anxious. When I walk downstairs, I picture my dead body at the bottom of the stairs. And it's just my brain imagines itself cracked at the bottom of stairs. So the last thing it needed was to imagine itself leaking at the top of a mountain. It just sat in my brain. And from there, it got worse. We got 7 pages of essential gear with words like gaiters and neoprene sleeve and balaclava. I didn't know how to pronounce it, let alone what they were for, but I knew that if I did not get them, I would die. And I wasn't planning on doing any sort of training because I had read in one of those little material pamphlets she gave me that you can't train for altitude, and I really clung to that. But I was so freaked out. Like 2 weeks before we went, I started hiking Runyon Canyon and doing panicked squats at the gym. We get to Mount Kilimanjaro, the base, and we meet our 5 other hikers and 3 guides and 30 porters that were going to take us up this mountain. They immediately checked our vital signs, and it felt very serious. The first 2 nights on the mountain, I didn't sleep at all. Jenny slithered into her little sleeping bag and fell asleep immediately, and I lay next to her. I put on all my clothes, my balaclava, whatever it was, and I just lay there, petrified. I was scared of the wind. I was scared of the cold. I was scared of the brain leak. And I would tell the guides, all my fears. And our main guide said, "Don't worry, it's not a problem." And I was like, well, it feels like a problem to me. One day, he said, this was like day 4, "Who here is afraid of heights?" And I was like, I am afraid of heights and falling from them and everything to do with heights. And he said, "Tomorrow, you will walk behind me." And it wasn't so much as walking as scaling a wall of rocks with all 4 of my limbs, which I did. It was no joke. I mean, we were walking 7 to 10-hour days. You would fall if you did not have your pole technique down. I did not have my pole technique down. And I kept glaring over at Jenny. I was like, man, your dream is dangerous. We may not even get to my dream. So the morning of the summit attempt, which they so lightly call it, they woke us up at 12:30 in the morning, and we started the ascent in the pitch black for 6 hours up this icy incline with our headlamps shining. They said it was too cold and too high to stop. We just had to keep going so we could make it for sunrise. And it was really intense, and people were struggling with it. One woman in our group, about an hour in, said, "Hold on," and she just vomited in the wind, and then we kept going. And Jenny at one point said, "Wait, I have to have diarrhea." And she went behind a rock and had like altitude diarrhea with other people. And then we kept going. Another guy in our group said, "It's not worth it," and like turned around and was like, "Oh my God." Other people were turning around from other groups. One guy we passed was like seated in the icy ground, and his eyes were all bugging out, and he was breathing all shallow, like the end of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where the guy gets his heart ripped out. And I was doing surprisingly well. I mean, I kept repeating my name and address over and over in my head just to make sure I hadn't sprung a leak. But I was very determined and focused. I had my pace. And it was crazy because I kept thinking, like, what are you doing? You don't even care about this. This isn't even your dream. You wanted to go on safari, and where you're not allowed to walk. You just have to sit in a Jeep and look at giraffes. And here I was climbing this mountain, like trying to reach this summit. But as I was walking, I realized it wasn't about that for me. I felt like I was walking towards every anxiety that I had ever had. I felt like I was facing myself and facing my own nature. And I kept thinking about my father, who had died just the year before, and I knew he would want me to keep on walking. And I was thinking about my life, and I knew I didn't want to be that girl that turned around on the mountain. At 6:30 in the morning, we made it to the summit, and we cried, we hugged, and I peed behind a very tiny rock in front of many strangers from all over the world. I felt like I had reached a higher place inside of myself. I survived, and that made that safari so sweet. I sat in that Jeep, I didn't have to walk, and I just watched giraffes saunter across the horizon. It filled me with so much bliss. But if I'm actually honest, I would have to say that damn mountain fed me more, because it continues to be my teacher. It continues to be a reminder of like how powerful my mind is and how strong my will is, and how sometimes what feeds you more is not what you're actually longing for, but what you fear. Thank you.